Hello, it's PJ from the Solo RolePlayers podcast, Wasteland Story, a couple of other things going on in the background. Today I'm just having a bit of an experiment. I decided recently, and some of you who've been listening to the show, specifically the Solo RolePlayers podcast, will know that I have an issue with the Mutant Year Zero dice pool system, and it is no fault of the system. Of that I'm sure. It's just something doesn't feel good to me about the odds of rolling a bunch of d6s not knowing whether a 6 is going to come up. I don't know why. It's just me. I'm sure it's just me. I know people love it. There are things, however, I do really like about the system. I really like how the stats get affected. Well, I like and I don't like this. In Forbidden Lands, when you take damage, you take it to your stats, and that means you actually reducing the probability of you being able to succeed as the battle goes on. Now, one of the good things about that is it adds a tension and a real consequence to taking damage, because it's like, if anyone's played Kingdom Death Monster, for example, the board game, that has this sort of arc of you start out at your strongest, and as you face more and more of the attack of the monster or whatever, you get weaker and weaker and weaker, and it turns into this sort of desperate slog into barely clinging on by your fingernails and trying to survive. And that can be really fun, and you feel you feel a real sense of achievement when you succeed. It can also be a bit not fun when it feels like you really just don't have a chance. So yeah, that's a dichotomy there of something I do and don't like about that part of the system. Something about the probability with the D6 bugs me, as I told you, and I think it's because it's you never really have a good feel for what I never really have a good feel for what my chances of success are. And it does say in the book here, it has a table with the number of dice and the chance of success. It says for 3 dice, you have a 42% chance of success, 64% if you push it. For 10 dice, you have an 84% chance, 96% if you push it. And that seems fine to look at, but I've found in my own play, and even listening to some podcasts I love, such as Sweden Rolls, where they do a lot of Forbidden Lands, and Coriolis for that matter, which is the same system. And actually that just reminds me, Coriolis I'm dying to play as well, and if my idea works, I could translate this over to that as well. But I find that listening to those podcasts and in play, often you have this big handful of dice, which it feels like a lot, and then you roll it and there's just no 6s, and it feels bad. And so I wanted to try and find a way of my very first attempt to hack anything and try and change things just for me, just for solo play. This isn't something I'm going to write up and put on the internet or anything like that, or at least I don't intend to. I mean, if people want it, I guess I could. Mostly it's going to exist in my head, and just as a way for me to do that wonderful thing in solo role-playing, which is really tune the game and the play style to how you want it to be. And it's an experiment. I don't know if I'm going to ever go live with this episode. I don't know who it's going to go to. I don't know if anyone's interested. I'm just recording because when in doubt, I just hit record, for better or for worse. I have done a little bit of thought and a little bit of probability mathing with the help of some ChatGPT to work out some probability stuff, although that's the extent of how I use AI in this kind of thing, really, is just the maths. And I've come up with an idea. The idea stems from a little game called White Hack, which I am yet to play. But White Hack has fascinated me since I discovered it and got a copy of it. And there are just certain things in there that I just find really, really attractive and really, really fascinating about how the system works. One of these things is the concept, and I'm sure it's not the first to do this, but the concept of D20 roll high under. Basically what this is you have a stat, which is your target number. You're trying to roll below that number, equal or below that number. Pretty straightforward. We've seen it in Dragonbane. We've seen it in other games. The other thing, though, is that the enemy has a defense rating, and that then counts up as a dead zone from the bottom of the dice roll. So if I'm fighting a creature, a grey bear, which has a defense value of 3, I'm shooting with a bow and I have a agility score of 14, for example. That means that I need to roll 14 or below, but I also need to get above 3 in order to hit. If I get between 1 and 3, it's assumed that my arrow bounces off the armor or something like that. And I just think that concept of a system is so elegant. For me personally, I have not seen a more elegant concept for a D20 system like that. And something inherently about it is you feel like you have, or I feel like I have a better understanding of the odds like that. And it's then exciting if I do roll that 1 and miss, because I know, there was only a 1 in 20 chance that I would miss or something. Whereas if I roll a big handful of dice, I just think, but how is that even possible? Surely one of them should be a 6. So that's one of the things that interests me about White Hack. It's certainly not the only thing. There's a lot of rules in there which I think can really help add a thematic element to things. The way that it uses magic is really, really interesting, where you're basically just taking 2 words, taking a description, and you can sort of choose how that spell works based on the use of those words. The spell doesn't have a clear set of rules saying, heal 2 hit points or something like that. It's more thematic and more broad in that regard. For this little hack experiment, all I have done, there's a few things I need to tackle in this, and I think I'll probably record this over some time. I'm not sure how this is going to work. This is just part of my process. There's 5 main things I need to tackle, which I'm realizing as I say it out loud now, and so I'm going to make a note of it. Thank you for helping me work out my process. The things I need to tackle. I want to keep a lot of the flavor of Forbidden Lands, because I do love everything about Forbidden Lands other than the dice resolution system. So I want to keep some of the feel of Forbidden Lands. I want to keep pushing rolls as an element of risk and reward. I want to keep stat damage, and I want to keep all the exploration and all that kind of stuff as well. The mechanics that I need to work out which are going to be changed and tend more towards White Hack versus Forbidden Lands are the PC dice resolution, the NPC dice resolution, magic, groups is something I'll talk a little bit about. It's basically, it's sort of an addition to skills, but it basically is thematic, flavorful reasons why your character may be advantaged or disadvantaged at certain things. And that's all I can think of just for this minute. The only thing I've really looked at is the PC dice resolution, and this is sort of the big one. I've come up with a solution after a few, not failed, but a few system changes that didn't really work, or at least didn't work in the way I wanted them to. I've come across something that, at least on paper, works really well for me, and especially for me playing solo. I had looked at ways that I could convert the stat system from Forbidden Lands to just a straight dice roll, but the problem is the probability curve is way off. Obviously, the probability curve of a single D20 is linear in a straight line. It's always adding 5% to your success chance each number that you increase, whereas the probability curve of a dice pool is much wobblier. I mean, not wobbly, but it's curved, because in theory, you can roll 100 dice and not a single one of them come up as a 6, just like you can flip a coin 100 times and have it land on heads every time. The probability of each dice is always a factor, whereas with a D20, the chance of rolling between a 1 and a 20 is 100%. This is obvious. What I've landed on, having quite interesting time with ChatGPT and talking probability, what I have landed on, sorry, I also want to explain, and forgive me, this episode will be rambly, that's the nature of it. That's why it's probably just going out to patrons. The other thing that was really important to me is I didn't want to have to convert anything on paper. I want to be able to do these conversions quickly and easily and automatically in my head just by looking at the numbers that exist on the pages in the books of Forbidden Lands. That was one of my key criteria. What I've come up with after a few things that didn't work is this. If I take my dice pool essentially from Forbidden Lands, which is made up of your attribute number and your skill number. or your skill level. My original idea was if I take those numbers and double them, that would give me a target number. And that kind of works pretty well, except once you get up in the higher numbers, it doesn't pan out because you are really way higher chance of success than you are in Forbidden Lands. And at the lower numbers, it really is underpowered. So you end up being too overpowered at the higher numbers, too underpowered at the lower numbers. And I didn't like that so much. What I found then through talking to ChatGPT about probability is that if I make the target number, whatever your dice pool is, plus 6, and this is something I'm going to test now and see how it sort of works. But on paper, if I take the dice pool number, add 6 to it, that gives me a target number to beat by rolling under on a d20. That is this in its simplest form. And the reason I really, really like this is because this means you are slightly underpowered at the higher numbers, but a little bit overpowered at the very, very low numbers. And that, for me, is perfect. Because what I'm trying to avoid is the feel bads. And in Forbidden Lands or a game like this, or Kingdom Death for that matter, if you're down to one attribute point and your dice pool is 1, your chance of success is just too low and you feel hopeless. Yes, maybe it feels really great if you do roll that 6, but the chances are you're just not going to. And I don't want to feel hopeless. I don't want the feel bads. So what this means is if your dice pool is 1, your chance of success is actually like 30%. It's quite good. It's still not great, but it's enough to give you some hope. And so that is what I'm going to try. Let's just do a little test example here. Now, the simplest form of doing this, which we'll do first to show you, and then I'm going to do an actual combat, which is slightly more complicated. While in real time on mic, I work out how to handle damage from the enemy and how the enemy attacks me. Let's take an example. I am trying to pick a lock with my character, Eowyn. Generally, that would be a sleight of hand, which is an agility skill. I have level 0. I don't have any levels in sleight of hand. So I'm going to be using my agility score, which is just 3. That's not very good. If I were to roll using 3 dice from the Forbidden Lands system, I roll 3 dice, I roll a 5, and a 2. That's a miss, that's fine. Okay? The chances of that being a success would be 42%. With my system, I take that 3, I add 6 to it, giving me a chance of 9. 9, if my maths in my head is correct, or if not, I'll have to go check on GPT. But the chance of rolling a 9 or under on a d20 is going to be, 9 times 0.5, which is 45%. Forbidden Lands is 42%. This is 45%. So that's actually pretty close. That's pretty good. I simply roll my d20. I get a 12. It is above my target number of 9, so I also fail. That's fine, but it's with a single dice roll. In Forbidden Lands, you have a mechanic where any ones that you roll don't hurt you unless you choose to push the roll. When you do push the roll, those ones are going to do damage to the skill. This is a little trickier to make work, but my current idea is it doesn't need to be exactly the same. I just want the decision space to still be there of do I want to push or not, risking hurting a stat. My idea for this then is when you push, obviously also good for solo play, is give a narrative explanation of what your character is doing to push that. If you fail again, you lose 1 point to that stat. If you critically fail, then you lose 2 points to that stat. A critical fail is a 1 when pushing. I've just decided I'm making a note of that on my bit of paper because talking out loud helps me decide things. I'm now going to push my roll. I rolled a 12. I roll again. I get a 1. Sorry, critical fail would be a 20, not a 1. I roll a 1, which is a success. Now, usually in a game like this, like Dragonbane, you would think the 1 is a critical success. In this case, it's actually not, because of the way that the armor system works and the dead zone at the bottom. And the way that White Hat gets around that is it makes a critical success when you hit exactly your target number, which is elegant. Again, beautifully elegant. So I roll a 1 on this. That is a success. I do not take any damage to the stat, and I succeed in the roll. Maybe that is too generous. The thing that I can't work out probability-wise is that concept of if I roll, in the example of the other dice, I rolled 5, 2, 5. If I'm to push this roll, I have a chance to both succeed and take damage. If I were to roll a 6 and a 1, for example, I would succeed, but also take damage. The thing that doesn't work out is I can know I'm going to get damage by having rolled a 1, push the other dice, and get a 6 like I just did, and another one, that would be 2 damage and one other thing. But it doesn't matter. The point is that decision space of, do I want to push and risk my stat or not, making agility things harder in the future? And that is an interesting decision, especially in a battle. That's the simple one. Let's take our next approach. Our next approach is fighting an actual enemy. And this I only have half worked out in my head. I'm going to take a grey bear here. This grey bear has a strength of 14 and agility of 2. The agility stat doesn't worry us just yet at the minute. Because I assume there are ways, and I really like the idea of having ways to damage an enemy not just on their strength, i.e. hit points, but have a way to like break them, get them to run off, or give them disadvantage by reducing their agility. I really like that idea. I assume there are ways to do that in Forbidden Lands. I haven't played enough of it yet. So let's see how we go here. This bear has, we're just going to call it hit points, but it has a strength of 14. We're going to look at 14 and call that its hit points. I am then going to roll to attack. I am shooting with my bow. My agility is 3, and my marksmanship is 1. So that gives me a dice pool of, would give me a dice pool of 4. Now this is another interesting point. In Forbidden Lands, you can also add your weapon bonus to your dice roll, which means it's not, the weapon bonus isn't towards damage directly, although it does help as well. The more dice you roll, the more chance to do more damage. But rather it actually improves your chance to hit. And I do like that idea now that I think about it, because you have a really good bow, you're more likely to hit with it. Maybe. Really sharp sword, you're more likely to hit with it? I don't know. You're more likely to do damage. So we're going to ignore that for now. My initial idea is the weapon bonus adds to the damage rather than to hit. So I have agility 3 and marksmanship 1. That gives me 4. That will be a dice pool of 10 when I add my 6. Sorry, that'll be a target number of 10 when I add my 6 to it. That's a 50% chance to hit it. Now, I don't know if that's good enough, hitting 50% on every chance, but I guess we're still pretty low in level, so I guess that is fine. This can maybe come in where you find narrative or strategic reasons to give you advantage on things. So I could maybe say, if I can get up into the tree, then I can get advantage on it. Something like that. Or maybe I can say through White Hack, you would use something called groups, which are basically keywords or tag words based on your character background that is reason why you would be good at things. I could say, for example, and I don't think... I could say, for example, if one of my groups in White Hack is elf, which I am, or forest elf, for example, maybe that means when shooting in the forest, I could give myself advantage on that roll. But maybe shooting outside of the forest is not necessarily advantageous to me compared to someone else. Let's say we're fighting a grey bear. We are not in the forest. I'm going to roll here. I now have a target number of 10. The bear has an armor rating of 2, according to the rules as written. And in my head, the way to work this out probability-wise is to just basically halve the armor rating, rounding up. Or rounding down, we'll see. So if I halve the armor rating, I make that a 2. It has an armor rating of 4. I halve the armor rating, make it a 2, and that is their defense number, or rather the number at the bottom of the roll, which is a dead zone. Perhaps if I'm using a piercing weapon or something like that, I can reduce that dead zone somehow. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to try and take a shot. Before I do that, I'm going to see if I can, and this is fun narratively for solo play, I'm going to see if I can get myself advantage by getting into a position. I'm hunting this bear, say. So I'm going to try a sneaking roll. Looking at my skills here, that would be, say, could be survival. I would have to read exactly what survival was. I don't think sneaking is going to be sleight of hand. Could be scouting, which is that I see them before they see me. Survival is probably more things attacking you. So let's say scouting. I'm going to do a scouting roll to see if I can spot this bear before it spots me. If I do, that'll give me advantage on the roll. So Eowyn is stalking along the edge of the forest, and she has been tracking this bear for a while. She sees some footprints, and she wants to know, can she tell how fresh they are, and therefore how close the bear might be. We're going to do a scouting roll, which is level 1 in scouting, and that's going to be wits, which is 5 for Eowyn. That is 6 plus 6 to create our target number is 12. And then I could also say, for example, because Eowyn has the group tracker, which she doesn't, but let's say she has the group tracker because that was her profession, or because she is with Guyan and he has tracker, maybe we can give ourselves advantage on that, for example. So I'm going to roll, we'll say she's alone. Let's just do a fate question here for fun. If we roll under 10, she is a tracker. She's not a tracker, so she doesn't get advantage for that. Target number of 5 for the wits, plus 1 for the scouting is 6, plus 6 to create our target number of 12, and we roll a 20, which is a critical fail. Critical fails in solo play, I really like making as complications narratively. So I think in this example, we are trying to track this bear, and we're looking very closely at the footprint and trying to figure out how big it is, where it might be, our knowledge of bears, where we are in the area, this kind of thing. And it has tracked us. This is the story complication. So I'm then going to enter combat and not draw initiative. It is going to have the initiative. Now, this brings us to the next point. How NPCs are going to attack. This I am really working out on the fly and see if this works. This I have less of an idea for. In Forbidden Lands, there is a D6 attack table which tells you what they're going to do to attack. I have a couple of ideas for how to resolve this, but let's just step through and see how we go. Rolling a D6 to see what attack this bear would be doing is a 4. It is a sweeping attack. The grey bear rises suddenly on its hind legs, towering above the adventurers. Its claws sweep in a wide arc, hitting everything in their path. All targets within arm's length suffer an attack using 7 base dice with a weapon damage of 1. Okay, here is my idea. A, to keep some of the Forbidden Lands feeling, and also to reduce the maths that I would have to do to work out the probability of this. The most obvious thing to do is to have the NPCs attack in the same way, which would be dice pool of 7, adding 6 to that, making it a 13. That is the chance that it hits me. It rolls a 15, it misses, okay? Again, I like being able to tailor things to how I want it. And when I'm playing solo, I don't love the feeling of rolling back and forth against enemies. I think it'd be really cool if the enemy feels different when I'm playing the enemy and attacking my character. So here's my plan. Back to the dice pool system, keeping the Forbidden Lands flavor, and it's not everything, so maybe I don't mind doing it occasionally. My idea here is to halve the number of the dice pool, say rounded down, and then make successes 5s and 6s. This way, we keep the dice pool a little smaller, but the probability stays the same that they're going to hurt me. And then I think I'm going to give my character a chance to evade all or some of that damage. Let's see how this works. The bear attacks me with a sweeping attack using 8 base dice, weapon damage 1. Okay, so weapon damage is just normal damage as far as I can remember. 5s and 6s are going to be a success. It should be rolling 7 die, so I'm going to make that, let's say we're rounding down, okay? Let's make it a little bit easier for us to begin with because we're a solo player. So, that'll be 3 dice for it to roll. On 5s and 6s, it hurts me. It rolls a 4, a 3, and a 2, so it doesn't hurt me. Let's say it does, because here's what I want to try. And then I'm going to play out this combat and see how it feels based on our hit points and stats and all that kind of thing. It rolled 1 5, 1 success. I'm going to say that is then, so weapon damage of 1. For each success, it's going to be 1 damage. So that is going to be 1 weapon damage. I'm going to say, because it is swiping, and it's snuck up on me, so I think I don't have a chance to defend in that case. This means it's going to damage my strength unless I can dodge it. Okay, yeah, let's see if I can, unless I can dodge it. In this case, I'm going to do a roll with disadvantage on an attribute, on a dice pool, as in skill and attribute, based on the type of attack. And because each of these attacks gives you a little description, that can sort of help me picture how things are happening narratively. So this bear has snuck up on me, and it does a big sideways swipe behind me. I'm going to roll on survival and agility to see if I had that sense just before it happened to somehow get out of the way. Survival and agility for me is going to be 3 on the attribute, 3 on the survival, plus 6 is 12. That gives me a chance to get away. I'm going to say it's disadvantaged because I didn't know it was coming. So taking the higher number in this case, and that is a 20. So this bear then does damage to me. The 20 I'm going to say is it could be whatever. It could be that I take double damage. It could be that it knocks me to the ground, whatever that happens to be. We're going to ignore that for now because we're just focusing on the mechanics. I'm going to take 1 damage now to my strength. But now Eowyn gets to react. Her strength is now reduced, however. Let me look it up quickly. I can't actually remember whether it is strength or agility that you use for archery. You roll with the thing connected to your skill. So the skill is marksmanship, that's agility. Okay, quite clear. So, it's going to be my turn now, and I think, so Eowyn, she didn't manage to get out of the way, and she takes a swipe to the back of the leg, reducing some of her strength. Or maybe she takes a strike just at the lower part of her back on her hip, reducing some of her strength. Now she is going to step back. Do we have a sword? She didn't have her bow drawn, obviously, because she was inspecting this thing. So she's going to use her knife. This is arm's length range. The knife is going to be a slashing attack, which I'm pretty sure uses strength. Doesn't matter at the moment. So she's going to turn around. She's going to try and stab the thing with the knife. I think she's going to try and stab it in the neck. Let's see if I can find what... Yeah, so stab is with a pointed weapon. It's a melee skill. So Eowyn turns around and she goes to stab this bear in the neck, trying to give herself a chance to make some distance to get a shot in. That means she's going to be using strength plus melee. She has a melee of 1, and her strength attribute is now reduced. So instead of 4, it's now 3. That gives us a 4. Plus our 6 to get our target number is a 10. She rolls to see if she can hit. And we roll a 12. That is a miss. At this point, she can choose to try and push her roll. Now, here's where this comes in. Because she failed by going over the target number, if I push the roll, it's going to do damage to the stat she uses. If I failed because I rolled in the dead zone, i.e. too low, i.e. hitting the enemy of the armor, that is when it's going to do weapon damage, assuming that you hit a piece of armor or something and it damages your weapon. That's what's working in my head. So I know if I push this and fail, I'm going to further damage my strength, but we're going to do it anyway. So we push our roll. This time we get an 18. That is another fail, and so our strength is reduced by a further point. Bad, bad, not good. However, she is now going to try and move and get out of there and create some distance. I can't remember if how many actions you can do on your turn. Let me see. Again, I need to go over the rules again before playing this properly, but this is really just to test the system. So let's say that she can do a minor action and she can move a bit away from the creature, and now we're going to go into normal combat. Eowyn is going to get an initiative card of 10, which is bad, and the bear is going to get 2. So it is going to get to go again to attack. It rolls on its attack table once more, this time getting a 3, which is a paw strike. It roars and swings its mighty paw against an adventurer. Roll for attack using 8 base dice, weapon damage 1. If it hits, the victim is thrown. So Eowyn starts to try and make her way back, and she does manage to get her bow drawn. However, as she looks up after drawing her bow, the bear leaps at her again and swings its paws in sort of an upward motion. And it is going to try and hit. it would be rolling 8. So we're going to make that 4. To see if it hits, remembering it hits on a 5 and 6. It does. It gets actually 3 successes. Now, doing 3 damage to me, that's probably too much, isn't it? Because that would break me already. So let's say... Okay, here's an opportunity where we get the chance to dodge. That would actually break me if it succeeds there. So maybe it's too hard, we'll see. Eowyn is going to get a chance to dodge this attack now. In this case, it's no longer survival that she'll be doing. It's now going to be... well, we choose the skill. It's going to be move, I guess, is for the dodge. So move would be agility. That's 3, giving us a target number of 9. So can she dodge this attack? She gets a 12. She cannot dodge the attack. We are going to push it, though, getting a 20, damaging 2 points of damage to the agility. Okay? Don't know if we're just unlucky here, or this system is too hard. Let's keep going. It is now our turn at least. And let me see. So fast action, parry, a dodge is a fast action. And I think you can do a fast action and a slow action. So let's call that her fast action done. And now she's going to try and... I think she's going to try and shoot this thing from where she stands, even though it is too close to her. Let's see what it looks like in the book with distances. So I'm looking here, and we'll get to this with the distance, but there are like, you parry with a weapon, it's -2 if stab, +2 if kick. And to do that, I can just add that to, or subtract that from the target number. So that's a nice, easy way to do it. So she is near. It's going to be -3 to hit. That means that with her bow at this range, her pool would be 3 + 1 is 4, +6 is 10, and then at the end of that, we're going to minus the 3, making it a 7 to hit. So it is possible, still possible, that she gets this hit in. And she gets a 3. Now, she does it only because the bear had a defense of 2, remember? So we're above the defense, but under the target number. So finally, we get a hit in. And now, when I do damage, I am going to make it a d6 damage. Because we need, if we're doing 1 damage per roll, and this thing has a strength of 14, that's fine if you have a party of 4 or 5, but no good for the solo player. So we're going to roll a d6 and just do straight damage to that. There is no defense. If it defended, if it reduced the damage with defense, like usually happens in a game, in this case it just wouldn't hit. Or maybe if you hit the defense, there's still a chance to hurt it, I'm not sure. Anyway, either way, we roll a d6. We're going to give, this is where we bring in the weapon bonus. We're going to call it +2 to damage because the longbow has a +2. So that is a 6 + 2 doing 8 damage. That's good. That is down past halfway now. And because we're playing solo, when you get a creature down either half or a third, you can maybe check to see if it is going to flee or not. Oh, here we go. Feral Rage. When the strength of the grey bear is halved, it is overcome by a deadly rage and will attack anything close by. So it's going to get a free attack in here. Triggered immediately, does not count towards the bear's actions. So we manage at close range to shoot this thing, and it goes into a Feral Rage, doing with 7 dice, which is going to be rounded down 3, hitting on a 5 and a 6, and it misses. So this thing, it starts swinging around in a rage, and Eowyn has managed to sort of duck out of the way as we go into a new round of combat. The bear getting 2 again and us getting 5. So unfortunately, the bear is still going first. When I do play this, really, I do want to get back into using the cards. I think that was fun, or at least I want to experiment with it more. But let's see. The bear is now going to go first, and it is going to attack. It rolls a 3, which is another paw strike, giving it 8 dice to try and hit, hitting on a 5 or 6, and we get nothing again. Thank Christ for that. And now we are going to get a turn. We're going to move back so that we are no longer... it's still swinging around in a rage, and as Eowyn dodges away, she manages to take a few steps back and take a bit of a breath and able to get give her a clearer shot with this bow. And so movement is one of her actions, and for her second action, she is now going to fire at this thing. She is hitting it now with her marksmanship ability skill of 1. Agility pool is now only 1 because she took 2 agility damage, unfortunately. So that is 2 + 6, is only an 8 to try and hit. She rolls a 7, so she manages to get it, doing a d6 plus 2 damage is 5 plus 2, which would take this bear down to 0 and kill it. Let's see how this feels. It felt quite deadly, but it wasn't too long, which I think is really important for the solo play as well. We didn't get particularly lucky, except on our damage rolls. It feels a little odd that maybe with 2 arrows you could take down a big grey bear, but maybe not. I mean, if you get it in a good spot, then maybe not. So far, based on a single combat, that feels like a success. It feels dangerous enough. I would now need to recover and heal my things, which is a good thing to be able to do, good thing to have to do. It didn't feel too easy, certainly. I felt in real danger, but I survived. I think so far so good. We're going to have to do more playtesting, obviously. Hey, that's an idea. If anyone out there wants to do some playtesting on this or something like it, using the rules that I have babbled here, I guess talk to me. If this is a Patreon episode, talk to me in the Discord. I can start putting together some of these rules on paper, and maybe we can start tweaking them together. Maybe we can make this system together. Maybe not, because I'm the only one who wants to change the Forbidden Lands system. I'm not sure. Interesting. So far, so good. I like it that when the creature attacks, it feels different than when I attack. I like that. I do like that. I wonder if I could be more generous with advantage based on the group system of White Hack. That, for that time, will tell. And then we have to start looking at things like magic. And the way magic works in White Hack is you soak up HP, or rather it takes away HP to cast a spell. And we could do that using the wit skill here. I think that might work quite well. Because willpower points is something that we haven't factored in. I guess every time you fail, you could get a willpower point. That is something I just always forgot about in when I played Forbidden Lands. It gives you reasons to push rolls, but then because the roll pushing system is a little less nuanced in my system now, maybe you don't need to. Maybe it just costs you wits to use it. Not sure. We'll see. To be continued on this. I don't know how long this has been now. I don't know if this is going to be a whole episode or whatever, or I'll edit this out and we'll come back and keep doing more stuff. Oh, armor was the other thing we had to figure out. Yeah, okay. Let's just do another test of that. Your armor rating actually gives you a chance to negate some damage from the enemy. So perhaps that's how I'm going to use armor. In this case, I had 1 leather armor, so 1 armor rating on my helmet and 3 on my leather armor. That would mean I would roll 4 dice, and any 6s would negate 1 success from the enemy. I think that's fair to keep it at just 6s. So the enemy is attacking with 5s and 6s. Let's do a big attack from an enemy. 5 dice. That is 3 successes for the enemy. That is going to be, and say it's doing 2 damage each, that would be 6 damage. That's a lot. I can roll now 4 dice, and any 6s would negate 1 of them. Maybe. I don't get any 6s. I'm not sure. We'll come back to armor. We'll revisit that. Thank you for joining me for this little experiment, I think. I had fun doing that. I need to listen back and figure out, and I need to start writing stuff down, writing down rules. I do a lot of stuff in my head, and then I'm surprised when I forget it. But hey, that was kind of fun. I now have Forbidden Lands set up. I'm going to keep playing. If this happens not to be a Patreon episode, then in Forbidden Lands, I have done about 6 sessions, 4 of which I think are available on the Patreon feed as Eowyn and Gaian and Samina continued their story. They made it to Weatherstone. Very dramatic at Weatherstone at the end, although you haven't heard that yet. And my plan is that I'm going to continue a little interstitial off-mic play now, maybe, continuing to test these rules as Eowyn, Samina, and Gaian find... I'm not going to spoil it, but we're going to make a stronghold. And that's what I'm going to do off-mic right now. Thanks for being here for this weird episode. That was kind of fun. Bye. And it's PJ again from the editing room here. I have decided in all my scattered wisdom to put this Patreon episode out for everyone out there. Give you a bit of an idea of the kinds of things that I'm doing and planning to do more of on the Patreon in the coming year. It's coming up to our birthday for the first year of the Solo Roleplayers. I'm planning something special for that. And yeah, I just wanted to let you know that this is the kind of stuff that the patrons get. I have also done a part 2 of this episode where I tightened some rules up and had another combat and tried again. And I'm going to keep going with another couple of parts as I go through this really fun journey of tweaking a system so that it suits me better. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you want to come check out what's going on over on the Patreon, you can come to Patreon/Solo Roleplayers. Hope to see you there.